Congressman, welcome back here. We got to start with the big question. You've been making these town halls all across the state and a lot of red areas as well. Do you plan on launching a campaign for Senate or for any other office?
You got to be where the people are. So that's where I think I could be most useful and most helpful right now, not as a candidate, not having my name on the ballot, but bringing people together and make sure that we're listening to one another. We're going to be in Dallas on Monday, well, actually in Garland at the convention center at 6 p.m. We want folks, Republican, Democrat, Independent alike, to come out and talk about what's going on. And at these meetings that we've had in Wichita Falls and Mansfield and Amarillo just recently, we're hearing from veterans who are talking about 83,000 job cuts at the VA. Most of those cuts will go to veterans. We're talking about losing out on local schools with Abbott's voucher scam and cuts to IDEA and Title I funding from the Trump administration. And we're listening to people who are being hurt right now based on an administration that is not looking out for them. So there's real power in people coming together, being able to listen to one another. And then out of that, I think good things will flow.
But if you don't want your name on a ballot right now, what do you do with all this information that Texans are sharing with you?
You know, so many of these people who are showing up are also signing up to volunteer with Powered by People, where we're going out and registering young prospective voters and then staying in touch with them ahead of this next election. So there's organizing power that comes out of these meetings, and also just the ability for people no longer to be so isolated, so divided, so polarized, so alone. Coming out and coming together is real power. And we need that right now. We can't wait for the nominating process. We can't wait for 2026. People are being hurt right now. We have to show up for them right now. And that's why I'll be in Garland on Monday.
And the reason I ask you this right off the top here is because your name has come up along with Colin Allred, State Senator Nathan Johnson, and potentially others that might challenge the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate next year. Right now, you're not looking at that, though?
I'm not looking at that. And as you pointed out, there are amazing people out there, both in and out of public office right now. You know, we could add in North Texas, we could add Clay Jenkins and Jasmine Crockett to the list. So we don't lack for candidates and for people who should be in these positions of public trust, including U.S. Senate and governor. But what we need to do now is to be there for people who are being hurt by this administration, both in Austin and in D.C. And that's why I'm holding these town halls all across the state.
One thing I've noticed about these town halls is you've kind of gone to great lengths to make sure these are not billed as Democratic town halls. These are nonpartisan. You're inviting Republicans, Independents, Democrats, and everybody. What's the whole purpose behind that?
You know, I was just in Amarillo on Saturday, and as you know, Jason, it's split between two counties. Potter County voted for Trump 80%, Randall County 72% in the last election. But 750 people came out and they crossed the political spectrum. There were folks wearing MAGA hats at that meeting because they're just as concerned about the fact that Trump cut USDA, which meant fewer truckloads of food coming to their food bank. They're concerned about 3 schools in Amarillo ISD they're going to have to shut down because of this voucher scam. And they're also concerned about a minimum wage that's $7.25 an hour, or the fact that not only have we not expanded Medicaid in Texas, President Trump is about to cut that program in Texas. So this is everyone coming together. We need the broadest possible coalition, a true united front to make sure that we're delivering for our fellow Texans. And we've got to look past party affiliation or geographic difference or really any other dividing line. This is a time for us to come together.
But Texas is still a red state, though many people would say, no, it's a non-voting state, which I think I agree with that. But it's still a red state, though. Do you think that in 2026 that the Texans might be changing their minds?
You know, I think the only way we'll really know the answer to that question is if we show up everywhere. You know, it cannot just be the traditional places. You know,
Right.
obviously Austin and Houston, the Rio Grande Valley, very important. We cannot take them for granted. But we also cannot afford to write off places like Mansfield or Garland or Amarillo or Wichita Falls. These people deserve to be listened to be heard, and to be fought for. And I promise you, if Democrats will show up, and not just in election years, but all the time, then people will start to show up for those Democrats who are fighting for those local schools and raising the minimum wage and treating people with the dignity and respect that they deserve.
Let me ask you about strategy here for just a moment, Congressman. Democrats across the state that I've talked to are really banking on the Attorney General here, the Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, defeating the incumbent Senator John Cornyn in the Republican nomination next spring. But what makes Democrats think that Paxton might be vulnerable. He still got reelected despite the criminal investigations against him.
He is very, very popular within the extremist section of the Republican Party. That's how he survives an impeachment vote of Republicans in the state House and then is not convicted in the Senate. Might have helped that Dan Patrick took, millions of dollars from campaign donors who were in Paxton's corner. But he'll do just fine with the extremist element of the Republican Party. How he does with moderate Republicans, with independents, and certainly Democrats is another question altogether. But I'll tell you, Jason, whether it's John Cornyn, who's really been twisting in the wind, we have no idea what the guy believes in. He's turned out to be a real quisling in the Trump administration, or Ken Paxton, as extreme as it gets in Texas. I think Democrats have a real shot in 2026.
And to get back to the names just for a moment here, the big question that Democrats have always faced, before you, I would say, is they just don't have a bench that is willing to take that next step. Do you think that the party needs to be doing something else with its new chairperson to recruit these candidates to come out and run?
We're lucky that we have a dynamic new chair in the Texas Democratic Party, Kendall Scutter. And I know that he really believes in a 254 fight on all fronts strategy. We can't do, Jason, to your point, the same thing the same way and expect a different result. That's how we've remained in the wilderness for 30 years politically in Texas. So it means that we contest at every level of the ballot, from justice of the peace to U.S. Senator. And we don't just do it in 10 or 12 counties. We do it in all 254, because where Democrats have traditionally feared to tread, Republicans have stopped showing up, and there's no accountability or representation at all. Democrats have a golden opportunity right now, given how badly Abbott and Trump are hurting our fellow Texans, to show up and fight right alongside them and ultimately to win some of these important elections.
And Congressman, over the past few election cycles, we've seen that the Democrats seem to have their main message as anti-Donald Trump, to go against Donald Trump on everything, as opposed to speaking to the working Texan who's out there. What do you think Democrats should be doing differently?
It's not enough to be in opposition. If we learned anything in 2024, the people of Texas, the people of America wanted change. For too many, this country is just not working for them. So Democrats need to propose that kind of bold change that people are looking for, or else they're going to continue to choose the change that Donald Trump represented. That means that we can no longer live at $7.25 an hour. We need a minimum wage that is a living wage. It means that we don't just keep Medicaid from being cut, we expand it so every single Texan can see a doctor and be healthy enough and well enough to go to work or raise their kid or finish their education. It means that we are treating people with dignity wherever they are, regardless of who they voted for. No more judging you if you voted for Donald Trump. If you did, I understand that, and you're welcome as part of this movement and this coalition. We are going to fight for everyone. We're not just going to talk about it. You are going to see us do it. If we can accomplish that, and you can't do it at a distance, you can't do it with money, you can't do it, with all due respect, just on TV, you got to be there in person, like at these town halls, then we have a real shot of winning and delivering for the people of Texas that we want to serve.
I know it's been a minute since I've seen you in person, a few months back, since you were last in Dallas, but it sounds like you're extending an olive branch to those Trump supporters, people who have, shunned the Democratic Party in the past.
Absolutely. We need everyone at this moment. And if you voted for change in 2024 because you thought that's what Donald Trump represented, I get it. I understand it. You did that in good faith. But if that change has turned out not to work for you because you haven't seen your wages go up, or in fact, prices are the only thing that are going up in your life right now, and you want something better, then you are welcome as a part of this coalition. You don't have to change your party or change your views or your values. If you believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, and this democracy, and you want to see America continue to come through as it has for 249 years, then we want to be with you. And that's why I'm showing up in Garland. Everyone is welcome, regardless of party affiliation or who you voted for, or even if you didn't vote at all the last time. We want to see you. We want to listen to you. We're going to bring a microphone for you to be able to talk into so that we can all hear your story and hopefully all work together in common cause for this country at its moment of truth.
Couple last questions here. People may not realize, but you do remain very active politically with Powered by People, your organization. You're registering people to vote, you're organizing and things like that. But you also organized a counter protest with students in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the same day that the president Trump was there speaking on campus. What's the strategy behind that? Because in the past, I've known you to organize people to help on campaigns. You've registered people to vote, but now you're getting out here, seems like back on the front lines again.
You know, it's actually a really encouraging story. Donald Trump had invited himself to the commencement ceremonies at University of Alabama, trying in typical fashion to outshine the achievement and the celebration of those students there. Many of those students at University of Alabama reached out to me, and no one told them to. They weren't following orders from the DNC. They just said, hey, this isn't right. And they know that Alabama has been written off by the Democratic Party, written off by the Republican Party as well, because they can take them for granted, but they want to be heard and listened to. So I flew out to Birmingham, drove down to Tuscaloosa. 1,500 people came out to a public park. And again, we don't know, and it doesn't matter if they were Republicans or Democrats or independents. They were standing up to be counted for our country right now at this incredibly important moment. And Jason, it felt like a lot like Texas. So many have written us off or taken us for granted, but we're just as important as any other people in any other state. We deserve to be heard and fought for. And so whether you're in Tuscaloosa or Tulsa or you're in Garland, Texas, we are going to be there for you, because this is a defining moment for our country, and we cannot be found wanting. All of us have to show up, and we've got to come through. And the only way to do that is to be out there together.
Last thing for you, Congressman, give me the challenges and the opportunities. I think I know most of the challenges that Democrats face in the state. The Rio Grande Valley may be at the top of the list now, with the Democrat or with the Republican, investments that they have made down there. What do you think that Texas Democrats need to be doing right now?
I'm going to sound like a broken record to you, but we've really got to show up everywhere for everyone. I really think that the losses in the Rio Grande Valley are less to do with Trump and the Republican Party and more to do with Democrats. Plenty of exceptions to this, okay? But too many Democrats getting too lazy and too complacent and taking too many people for granted. Basically saying, and this is like a dirty open secret, that for far too long Democrats have said, listen, if you're brown, if you're black, if you live in urban Dallas or the Rio Grande Valley, we can take you for granted. We're going to stop showing up and fighting for you and listening to you and working with you. We're going to go chase the soccer suburban mom in Collin County. And she's important too. The thing is, everyone is important. You got to show up for everyone. And the other thing is that you can't do this on the cheap. I may have raised and spent $80 million in the governor's race a few years back, but Greg Abbott raised and spent twice that amount of money, and that is before what Dan Patrick and Ken Paxton and every other statewide elected Republican and the independent expenditures. If we don't start investing in Texas, commensurate with its importance and the 44 electoral college votes that we will soon have after the next census, then we're going to continue to lose in Texas. So it is showing up for everyone everywhere and investing in this state like it really matters. We do those two things, and Democrats will start to win.
And then the thing that piggybacks off that, I guess, is messaging to independents who are the critical voters in all this, right?
And the message has to come from the very people that you want to serve. If you try to cook this up in a focus group in Austin, Texas, or Washington, D.C., even worse. If you're solely relying on polling data or what the consultants tell you to do, well, you're probably going to get the same result. But what I have found is that if you will show up and listen to people and really be with them and ensure that they know that they're being heard and that you even know that they exist. It's like the most fundamental, basic human need. Do you know who I am and where I am and what I'm going through? If you will do that basic work, which again, I think far too many Democrats have failed to do, then you really have a chance of earning and winning those votes. And that goes for Democrats, Republicans, and to your point, those independents. And last thing, just to prove that this stuff works. When we went to all 254 counties in 2018, at the end of the day, there were 500,000 Texans, 500,000 voters who picked Greg Abbott for governor and picked me for U.S. Senator. They split their ticket. So you can pick up not just independents, but you can pick up Republicans as well if you'll show them that basic courtesy and respect of meeting them where they are. We've got to start doing that in Texas.
And we're not going to see your name back on a ballot, huh?
Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Right now, I'm going to do everything that I can to be helpful, and that means showing up for people where they are. And that means tomorrow in Garland, Texas at 6 p.m. at the convention center.
Congressman, it's always good to see you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Jason.